So here's the tools that we're going to use for drawing our Freestyle New York Beauty. First of all is freezer paper. I usually buy freezer paper. I shouldn't say it like that. I should tell you that I send my husband to the grocery store and he does the groceries, so he picks me up freezer paper every time I tell him I need it. I use a lot of freezer paper. Now this one is about 18 inches wide, which means you can get a really nice size square drawn out of that. So the other tool, so I've taken that freezer paper and I've made 4 of them now, because remember, everything is done in mirror. So when you're doing this, you don't want to lay your freezer papers one on top of another. You want to fold them so that you're going to be making some duplicate copies. I'm going to turn it this way. And then I'm going to use my square ruler. So I'm just going to use a square ruler. I'm going to lay it down. This time I'm going to design, because I've got that little tear, I'm going to design it to be 10 by 12 unfinished, so that when it's all done it would be 9.5 by 11.5, because we need to take our 1/4 inch off. Turn it this way. So we're going to start it out 10 by 12. So it's another cool thing about doing Freestyle New York Beauties. They don't have to be square. They can be a rectangle if you want them to be, which can make a quilt very interesting, because then it's not going to be a square quilt, it's going to be a rectangular quilt, which is, most generally speaking, what you want on your bed. All right, so here's my design. Now I am going to freestyle my 1/4 circles. So I'm just going to take this and go, yep, that one looks good to me. Then I'm going to do this inside one. I just generally like an inside one. I'm going to make them a little bit fatter on one side to make them more interesting. And then this one, my big one, there. So it's a little bit fatter on this side, a little bit skinnier here. That's the basics for my New York Beauty. Now I'm going to draw the lines. So when you're drawing the lines, keep in mind that the way that you're drawing them is the opposite of the way that you're going to piece them. That will make more sense when we continue. So I always want my first point down here at the bottom to be at least a 1/4 inch in, because I need to have that, this is my seam allowance here. So I want to bring it in at least a 1/4 inch and just draw it from one side to the other side. And here's my second one. Now on a traditional New York Beauty, your next point would start right down here with this one, not with a freestyle. I'm going to have it start part way up that point, and on the way down, bring it all the way down, but look, I didn't take it all the way to the top. That's okay. So go all the way around and do that. You can make some skinny ones. You can make fatter ones. Whatever you want. It is important that you're using a straight edge, so I am just using my small little at a 1/4 ruler. You need to have a straight edge, because when you sew, you need to be sewing a straight line. And again, I ended that at least a 1/4 inch from the edge. So that is my design. When we come back, we're going to go to the sewing machine. So now we have it drawn, and I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. Now I've set up my sewing machine with a larger than normal stitch length. So instead of a 2.5, I've set it up to a 3.0, and I'm going to stitch through the freezer paper. You can do that. In case you're wondering, yes, you can do that. Now this is going to go through, whoops, there, whoop. This is going to go through these four layers of freezer paper. I easily could do it through 8 layers if I want. Whoops, there. I'm going to sew all the way around the perimeter, and then I'm going to come into the inside and sew through all of those little points, taking my time as I do this, so that everything's as precise as I can make it. When we come back, I'll show you how this looks. So I've sewn through all of the lines that I drew. So I had to hold the paper together. I used some of these clips. Sometimes I'll use a stapler, but the idea is I sewed through on the line. So now I have 4 copies, and you can see that these little dotted lines, those are the lines that are my pattern. It's my pattern. It's my freestyle pattern. After you have this, we need to cut this out. So use your rulers, and I'm going to cut through all of this paper. So I'm just going to use my 45 millimeter. Yep, it's going to cut through paper. Nope, it's not going to dull the blade so much that I'm going to have to put a new blade in. If I cut sandpaper with my blade, yeah, that might dull the blade. But this isn't sandpaper. This is just freezer paper. There we go. And keep in mind, this would be, for this pattern, this would be not the finished size. So everything would be 1/4 of an inch in from there. Now we're going to cut the curves. That's going to create my 1/4 circle template. Here's my little band template. And then my outside section. All right, but when you look at these, I want you to realize a couple of things here. One, this template does not have the 1/4 inch seam on the inside curve. So right here, you might want to write 1/4 inch seam, because you have to add that when you're cutting it out. There is also not a 1/4 of an inch seam on the freezer paper section, so again it would be adding a 1/4 inch on that side and this side. Same thing with our inside band. On this one, it would be on both sides that you have to add your 1/4 inch to it, and then on the inside little circle you would add it here. Right? Now the truth is that because this is freezer paper, we only really need one of these. Each one of these, just these ones. These ones here, I can get rid of. I don't need them because it's freezer paper and I can reuse this freezer paper. And what I'll actually show you is I cut them all out at the same time. But this section here, this is where I'm going to be doing my paper piecing. So here's number 1, 2, it's going to come apart here in a second, 3, 4. So do you see what I've created? I have my paper piecing sections that are going to do the points. So when we come back, I'm going to piece those points onto a section.